Good afternoon, honourable members, guests in the gallery, the administration present here. We are going to proceed with the business of the day. I am going to call on the Secretary to read the fourth order. It's the fourth order of the day, which is community safety. Yes.
Debate on Road 4, Community Safety, Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
Thank you. I recognise the Minister, Minister Winde.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. I rise on Budget Vote 4, Community Safety. And Speaker, the ultimate goal is to create a safer Western Cape for every single resident and visitor. We want this to be the safest province in the country as well as on the African continent. This process started, Speaker, when I became the Minister of Community Safety in November, and this budget is the social contract in achieving that. Speaker, the situation in the province has reached epidemic proportions, and for this reason we have to ensure that maximum citizen impact, which will make a difference in the lives of our residents. We only have an oversight mandate over the police, but we have started to and will continue to push the mandate to its limit. I commend the former Minister and my colleague, Mayor Dan Plato, for his unwavering commitment to fighting crime in the province. Also the manner in which he, to this day, engages communities, and not only to improve safety, but people's lives in general. This is evident in the allocation of 165 million to the Safety and Security Directorate in the city's annual adjustment budget, his first move when he got to be mayor. Speaker, unfortunately, our efforts are being derailed by the Minister of Police and the ANC-led national government, who is failing the people of the Western Cape. Mothers are burying their innocent children and toddlers.
Order,
Children have
please.
to do their homework underneath the table in the kitchen for the fear of being shot or hit by stray bullets. Residents are being held hostage in their homes, fearing that they might be hit by a bullet or a gang attack at any moment. The reality in the province is, Speaker, murder increased by almost 13% from 3,311 into the 2016-17 year to 3,729 murders in the 17-18 year. Speaker, that's 10 murders every single day. And then on top of that, there's another 10 attempted murders every single day under the watch of this ANC government, because that's where the responsibility for policing lies. They've got the blood on their hands, Speaker. Speaker, between April 2013 and March 2018, Nyanga has consistently been the murder capital of the country. 1,273 people killed in this period. This is just in Nyanga, Speaker. Reports say, you ask why?
Order.
Because of the failing ANC government. The failing ANC government lost it. Speaker, it obviously hurts. Reports say for February alone, 25 people were killed in Mitchell's Plain.
There's too much
Since
noise,
the beginning
members.
of the year, 20 people killed in Bonteheuwel alone. And of course, you would have seen one of our councillors with a young boy of 5 years old, 3 bullets in his body in hospital in a serious critical condition. This is under the watch of this political party. Between November 2017 and February 2018, Speaker, this is from November last year to the end of February this year, 1,226 people murdered in this province. In this province, Speaker. And what are the police doing about this?
Order, please, members.
Speaker, if we have a look at the previous year, same period, and now hardly any difference in the numbers. Yet, in November, we launched what we've been calling for 10 years, the anti-gang unit. But still, we have not seen the impact and the difference. And that, again, is this political party who runs that. Speaker, the Honourable Richard Jantjie has just said that we wanted the army. He is obviously not in touch with the people of this province. He obviously does not walk the streets. And you know, this ANC government are very happy to send the army to other countries in Africa to do what? To do what? Peacekeeping. Did you hear it? So why don't we get them to come and keep peace here in this province? Why don't we get them to come and give peace here in this province so the police can go and do their work?
Minister
Because
Wendy.
you guys, and he lives in Durbanville, of course, he's totally out of touch with what's happening on the ground.
Minister Wendy, may I request that you take your seat, please, members? We have a right to interject, but too much interjections drowning out the speaker. And then, Minister Wendy, if I can ask you to please address the chair when you speak. Thank you. Honourable Chacha.
Yes, Speaker, can you also ask the member to stop pointing at us?
Okay.
Because he's pointing at us and as if we cannot do the same.
All right. Thank you, Honourable Chacha. Minister Wendy, could you put your finger in your pocket, please?
But he was saying he was pointing at you and he said they were stop pointing
Yeah, but don't worry about it.
I will try to control my finger,
Thank
Speaker.
you.
But, Speaker, that's murder in our province. Let's talk about the abuse of women in our province. Let's talk about the abuse of women in our province. Over the same period, our women are also highly affected, with 25,796 cases of domestic-related crime reported, 4,744 cases of rape reported. Speaker, you know, I visited a Tutuzela centre the other day, one of 7 in our province. When I visited this centre deals with an average of 300 women coming to look for help at this one centre, of which only 150 pluck up the courage to actually even lay a charge. So in actual fact, that number that I've just quoted is probably way less than even half of what is happening in our province every single day. 370 women are murdered. 279 children were murdered. This is 60 girls and 219 boys. We are under-resourced by 4,500 policemen and women to get to a number that should be the average across this province, across this country, so that we were all treated equally. But no, this political party that runs the South African Police Service out of Pretoria decides to punish the people of this province and under-resource us. It is absolutely true. It is absolutely true. So now I've just heard from the Honourable Dugmore that it's not true. Let me quote to
Order, please.
the numbers. I've got the numbers of every single police station. And you know what's quite scary? The Honourable Dugmore is actually the one that raised this, and I'm quite happy to react to it. So in Nyanga, let's have a look at Nyanga. 1 to 628. But you know, I was in Grabo the other day, and when I was in Grabo, the police used the population rate.
Honourable Dugmore, you cannot pose a question to the minister across the floor. You have to, Honourable Dugmore, you cannot ask a question across the floor. You have to do it through the chair, please. Thank you. You may proceed, Minister Windy.
Thank you, Speaker, but I did hear the question, so I'm reacting to it. So in Grabo, when I visited Grabo the other day, and in speaking to the station commander and the neighbourhood watchers and the civilian oversight, their numbers are based on 65,000 inhabitants of Grabo. But as we have it right now, in Grabo, there is a Brenthurst Foundation project that's being done there at the moment. And the first thing they did was get to the reality of the population numbers. And the population in Grabo, while the police are basing their police resourcing numbers on 65,000, there are actually 113,000 people that live in Grabo now. So that shows you that not even these numbers that we are using, and perhaps I'll give you one other area. Last night I was interacting in Tableview. And in Tableview, the police stats number, and this comes from a question that was posed,
Order, please.
So they're asking another question. They're asking another question, Speaker. So quite frankly, I know that Minister Bradell and Minister Meyer were with me, and it definitely was not an empty hall. But the official answer to us is 1 police officer to 506 people in the Tableview area. But in actual fact, the oversight body, as well as the local neighborhood watchers, have finished their census, and it is actually 1 police officer to 965 now. That shows you the growth rate. Stats SA says what the SAPS guys base it on, and it's not the real population. So in actual fact, even the numbers that they are giving us, even the number that they are giving us is way under the real number. So again, totally unresourced. The national government, ANC, Minister Becky clearly punishing the people of this province. Absolutely. Let's get
Minister
to
Wendy,
the Nyanga station.
Kindly
Speaker.
take your seat, please, Chief
It
Opwani.
was a direct accusation against the minister that he's telling a lie.
Honourable Dugmore, were those indeed the
Speaker?
words you uttered? That is a lie?
I think I should withdraw that and say that he's telling this House a deliberate untruth, if that's
That
okay.
too is
Deliberate untruth is as bad as a lie.
Honourable Dugmore, the use of deliberate is considered unparliamentary as well. Kindly just withdraw, please. Thank you.
Speaker, could I withdraw and rather just use the word that he's telling an untruth?
It's not conditional, Honourable Dugmore. Thank you. Just withdraw.
Speaker, I obviously withdraw that as per
Thank
your
you, Honourable
request.
Dugmore. Accepted. Minister Wendy,
Thank you very much,
may
Speaker.
proceed.
I will show very shortly how wrong the Honourable Dugmore is, because I'll actually show how even the Minister admitted to what I've just accused him of. But before I get there, let's talk about Nyanga. 1 police officer to 628.
Members, Minister Wendy, take your seat. This is the budget debate. Every minister has an opportunity to present a debate. The opposition parties have an opportunity to respond, but you simply cannot howl and shout someone down, because it is the right of an individual to speak. So you might not like what you hear, but please listen and try and cooperate. We've been together for nearly 5 years. Let's not spoil it now, please. You may proceed, Minister Wendy.
Thank you, Speaker. Maybe I'll lower the tone a little bit, and maybe that will help. So I've just got confused with another speech, because I heard that Fact Check got agricultural statistics wrong at 62% success rate in land reform. And in actual fact, 62% success rate in the land reform is actually wrong, because now the latest is at 72%. But we'll come back to Nyanga. And the national average in South Africa is 1 police officer to 375. Nyanga, 1 to 628. Delft, 1 to 642. Kraaifontein, 1 to 609. Harare, 1 to 745. Gugulethu, 1 to 590. Khayelitsha to 1 to 521. Mitchell's Plain to 472. These are the numbers that are given to us in an answer, parliamentary question answer from the minister. This is the actual fact that the minister gives us. Now, the first thing that happened to really deal with these numbers was an Equality Court challenge. And in the Equality Court challenge, Speaker, the finding of that court case was really damning against the South African Police Services and the minister. And it found that in black and poor areas of our province, we are way under-resourced. And you know that it was quite interesting. It was quite interesting that the minister then immediately appealed the outcome of the court case. But as soon as he was challenged publicly, he publicly said, no, I'm withdrawing the appeal. You know, it took him 6 weeks to eventually get to withdraw that appeal. That just shows you the kind of space that he is in at the moment. He wants to appeal a finding of a court that says he and under his watch are under-resourcing poor and black areas when it comes to policing. And guess which areas they are? They're the murder capital of our country. They're the place where our people are hurting the most. 1,226 people in 4 months murdered in this province. Do we understand the impact that that has on families? The impact that that has on mothers that are burying their children? Do they even understand that? I don't think they understand that at all. And then, of course, in trying to support this, while we are challenging this allocation and this resource, we also make offers of support, like, let's put some money on the table. It happened in this House in the budget, where I made money available for reservists to try to make this place safer.
Honourable Danke.
Do you want an answer to that one? Because I've got the emails. And your name's on those emails, Mr. Dugwall. So, I have been, I made offers of 5 million for reservists. We have really, and perhaps maybe we should say that, Speaker, that in this space and the comment that the Honourable Dugwall has just made, which is very unfortunate actually, because it is a very, very serious issue. There are two sides in a fight amongst generals in our province. I'm not taking the side amongst either of them. And if he wants to say it, then he must prove it, because you'll see how I've gone on both sides giving me information, sent it both to IPID and the Minister and a number of times. And we still haven't seen any finality. And when that kind of fight is happening in your senior police echelons in a province, do you know, this is where it really shows that we should not be the oversight at a provincial level. The oversight should be at a national level, like all democracies in the world. Because right now, the case of the status of crime in our province is such that a minister should be putting this province and its policing under administration. But how can a province with an oversight role now put the national minister and SAPS under administration in this province? That's what should be happening right now, because it is such a disaster. It is such a disaster, and it affects the people of our province.
Honourable Danke.
Speaker,
Please.
I'm going to move now to what this department and the interventions that we've been busy with while we have this fight at a national level to actually get to real grips of how policing should be happening in a democracy, to make sure that we make this safer for the people of our province. That's a constitutional mandate that we as government, whichever side of this House you sit, or whichever side in government you sit, opposition or in government, to make it safer for our people. This department has played the lead in the alcohol harms reduction game changer, and we've seen what is happening in that space. And again, listen to the Honourable Dugwall. Every time he makes a statement, he really is looking for an answer, and it is totally untrue. Secondly, the support of neighbourhood watches in this province. Post the piece of legislation, the only province in South Africa that has its own piece of legislation covering oversight, and the support that we're giving to CPFs, last year nearly 2.5 million rand, and almost every single one of them now are in the process through the registration. We have now also, in the support of our neighbourhood watchers, more than 300 registered neighbourhood watchers, and the support of them continuing post the December cabinet decision, that we also don't only give them their starter kits, but we also resource them, because of course they need bank accounts, they need to be able to procure for their own special needs depending on where they are offering their volunteer services, so they get a 10,000 rand support once they've registered and up and running, and that seems to be going very, very well. Thanks to the department for rolling that out. The project Chrysalis, 13.327 million that they received during the 2017-18 financial year, an amazing program. Again, next time we have the passing out parade, I again ask the members of the opposition to come along and see how amazing this program is, the difference it makes in young people's lives. If we look at the Youth and Safety Religious Partnership Program, which looks at school holidays, getting young kids off the street, making sure that they are safe during our festive seasons and our holiday seasons, and again 6.219 million going to that program, and really amazing when you interact with these various NGOs and churches on what they do and the kind of operations they put in place, from sports and camping down to robotics. It really was amazing to see what they do. And again, thank you very much to the department for the kind of work in establishing that partnership with civil society. Our volunteer certification program, now that again is one of those offers that we made to Minister Becky Clearly on how we can actually help policemen and women get out there because we are so under-resourced. Could we offer perhaps some of the staff that work in this government, the 84,000 people that work in this government, are they able to volunteer to perhaps do administrative jobs within the police service? We never got an answer on it. But what we did do is the department itself said, well, let's actually do the project and run the project by ourselves. So within the department, we did a quick survey, who would be prepared to volunteer their time. We took some of our chrysalis students, and some of us went down, and we started spending time at the Cape Town Central Police Station after speaking to the station commander. And from the 12th of February to the 4th of March, we assisted 2,582 people with 4,216 documents being certified. This again relieved policemen and women so that they could go out and do their job in fighting crime. And I can tell you, and I'll speak for myself, but I'm pretty certain that I speak also for those volunteers in the department, that it really was an amazing time to be out there, seeing how you brightened up people's days who thought they were going to be waiting for 4 and 5 hours in a queue to get a certification, to attend college, or to make a job application, and they were helped very, very quickly. Really an amazing feeling of volunteerism, and I want to thank every one of those individuals within the Department of Community Safety who gave up their time in volunteering in this program, and really shows that it can work. We also were involved in this in a reward for illegal firearms. If you knew where an illegal firearm was hidden, you could actually report that. And once the police had found that firearm, it would then have to go obviously through its ballistics, but they would report it to us, and there was a 10,000 Rand reward. I can say to you that the first recipient of that reward, which really amazed me, is the recipient, and obviously these people's names must be kept confidential, but the recipient, once the recipient received his award, he actually donated that award again to his own neighborhood watch in the region that he lives so that they could put it towards license recognition cameras. That's really amazing, and it shows the kind of commitment of people, the people in our province really trying to make a difference. But Speaker, we are here today for a budget of... Speaker, for today we are here for a budget of 359 million Rand that goes to trying to make this a safer province. This has a nominal increase of 4.99%, and in the programs, Program 1, Administration, 97.788 million, Program 2, Civilian Oversight, 76.56 million, Program 3, Provincial Policing Functions, and Program 4, Security Risk Management. And Speaker, for this new financial year, we want to ensure maximum citizen impact as we want to create a safer Western Cape. So, of course, in this program, to promote police efficiency, we have got the Police Ombudsman, also part of the legislation that we've put in place with an allocation of 11.123 million, and also to say this is an increase of 8% to ensure community members who do not receive or who are receiving poor service, that we can actually have an eye on making sure that we improve that. The monitoring and evaluation, which includes the watching briefs, and I must say a few things about that, but the watching briefs, another 14.974 million. And again, to the team that are out there on the watching briefs, thank you very, very much for what you do, because monitoring and evaluation plays a critical role. And the recent watching briefs report, just for the period 1 October to 31 December 2018, found that 312 cases had to be struck off the roll due to dockets not being in court, incomplete investigations, unavailability of forensic reports, and many other reasons. 312 cases. These are serious cases where individuals who have been arrested should have been convicted and face the consequences of their crime. And guess what? Due to shoddy workmanship, bad investigation, and one even wants to say to oneself, is it really bad investigation and shoddy workmanship, or is there actually a motive behind getting these 312 cases kicked out, getting these 312 people not to face a conviction, not to face the consequences of their crimes. And guess what, Speaker? This tells us that Inyanga was responsible for 20% of these dockets being out of court. So in the murder capital, in the worst resource space that the courts find where there's worse resourcing in black and poor areas, the actual processes in those same areas, when someone does get arrested, you've got the biggest chance of getting off scot-free. What kind of an indictment is that on this ANC government and their resourcing and their policing in this country? And that shows you what the role of an oversight is supposed to be doing. And that shows you the impact. Now, guess what? The minister, Honourable Janki, the minister, when I reported on this last lot of watching briefs and send it to him in writing to say, now he never ever replies to us, but in this one, for once, he replied. And in actual fact, what he did was he said, this is how we need to have oversight. And he has now instructed, not asked, not called for a meeting, he has instructed all the other provinces to start implementing watching briefs. That shows you what the Western Cape can do. Speaker, Programme 2, Civilian Oversight, which amongst others seeks to promote safety aimed at women and children, as well as facilitating effective functioning of CPFs. We believe that the whole of society approach is the approach to take. Waza receives an allocation of 5.7 million, and there's a further 2.5 million allocated to Wi-Fi, linking communities for greater safety. Because lots of communities out there are not able to report the crime because they've got no airtime, they've got no data. So now we've got a program in empowering the community so that they can actually become effective when they are out there reporting on crime that is happening. And especially where we've got kiosks in areas that we have no police station or station nearby. Speaker, Programme 3, Provincial Policing Functions, includes safety partnerships, and I'm pleased with the increase of 55.84% and the allocation now of 45.436 million. This allows, amongst others, the following allocations: 10 million for EPWP programs, 4.159 million for the Community Stabilisation Unit to assist in addressing and combating the increase in violent protests, and 7.42 million to the Youth Religious Safety Program that I spoke about in this past year. Programme 4, Security Risk Management, seeks to provide strategic leadership, which includes making provision for the optimal use of electronic infrastructure and the accreditation of our neighbourhood watch formations. Part of the strategic leadership goes to sub-program 4.1, 17.1 million allocated to the establishment and support of a new canine unit. This is so that we can sniff out the drugs, the abalone, the weapons, and anything else that's used to smuggle in our region that supports the gang and gangster economy at the moment, which is actually holding so many of our communities to ransom and holding so many of our young people to ransom. Speakers, also part of the sub-program 4.1 is the allocation of 2.4 million to the professionalisation of our neighbourhood watches. We've got neighbourhood watches in our province who are very, very well resourced. They're right up here. They've got control rooms, they've got body cams, they've got number plate recognition, they've got lots of resources. We've got neighbourhood watchers who walk at night, mainly women, keeping communities safe, and sometimes don't even have a torch. So this program is how we really level the playing fields, really start to support those neighbourhood watchers, to give them the pride, to give them the resourcing and the support that they can actually be recognised in this great work that they do as volunteers in effectively combating crime. And where neighbourhood watchers are working well, you can see the difference, you can feel the difference. So while the ANC might be forgetting about the people of this province, might be just allowing people to be murdered and raped in this province, we are supporting the people of this province in those neighbourhood watches to make it better here. Speaker, can I also say that perhaps not to spend too much time on it, but if you look at some of the research that's been done, the Inamai Chitia research from the Brennan Center of Justice at the New York University on how we're adding more police officers, adopting strong and proven management techniques, which we are not putting in place at the moment within our South African police services, we actually start to reduce crime. If we look at an article by German Lopez, 6 proven policies for reducing crime and violence without gun control, there we can see as well the same thing. It talks every single time to the gap in the system that we are seeing at the moment, where we've got police managed out of Pretoria, where they've got no idea what's happening on the ground. We're missing that management principle. And so these research documents go on and on and on. And that's why we are really pushing for a decentralization of decision-making, of management, of policing, and you make the oversight role at a national level. We need to flick it on its head. We're the only democratically elected government, that does not have this system of policing. We need to change that, not for the Western Cape. We need to change that for the people of South Africa. We need to change it for the whole country, for every other province as well. And Speaker, lastly, I really want to thank the HOD, Gideon Morris, and all of the staff of the department. Thank you very, very much for what you do in making this a safer province within the framework and within the resource that we have, for really pushing those boundaries and for accepting this task that we want to make it even safer. For all that you do, I really value your input. This Parliament, I'd like to say, also values your input and dedication, and so do the people of this province. A safer Western Cape is what we need. Can I also say to the Standing Committee, thank you very much for your role, for your input, for your constant vigilance on also helping make this a safer province. And lastly, to the staff in the ministry, I'm not sure if they can see me right now, but I want to say to them, thank you very much for the early mornings, the late nights, the dedication also in making this a safer province under the circumstances. And we will continue to fight where it's broken. We will continue to push to fix where it's broken so that we actually do make it a safer province. The crime levels at the moment are totally unacceptable. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. I now see the Honourable Member Wenger.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Department of Community Safety's budget is set to increase by 5% to a total of 359 million rand for the 2019-20 financial year, in comparison with the revised estimates of 342 million for the 2018-19 financial year. The department will receive additional funding over the 2019 MTEF for projects which will be implemented concurrently with the existing projects in support of creating safer communities. This includes the establishment of the K9 Dog Unit and Highway Patrol Safety Initiatives. This new unit will have the ability to stop the flow of drugs into and out of our province. Criminals must see a great big red stop sign if they intend to use our roads to peddle drugs and poach perlemoen. This budget, Speaker, is a forward-looking budget and provides for innovation and the use of technology. By provisioning for Wi-Fi zones at outreach activities and making data available for neighbourhood watches, as well as community police fora, not only can awareness be improved and citizens armed with information to make them safe, but safety and security technology improves, as does coordination and responses. In this budget, civilian oversight is set to receive 76.6 million rand. This includes policy and research, monitoring and evaluation, safety promotion, and community police relations. As this House is aware, the Western Cape government instituted the O'Regan Commission of Inquiry into a breakdown in the relationship between the police and the community of Khayelitsha. It's interesting to note that the ANC claims that the DA government did not implement the recommendations of this commission. However, what they will not tell you is that the vast majority of the Commission's recommendations concern the SAPs and require direct intervention and political will from the ANC national government to make these changes within the SAPs. The ANC will also not tell you that all these years later, the police minister, all three of them, have still not signed the Memorandum of Understanding that the Commission recommends be signed to be able to
Could you kindly
cooperate.
take your seat, please? There's a member on the
The
floor.
member talked to us about recommendation 12 of that commission and speak to his, which is directly to this province.
Honourable Dankie, you are
Ask me
out
a
of
question.
order. You have to ask me, will the member take a question. Then I will ask the member, and then you pose the question.
Can I ask
So,
a question?
take your seat, and I will check. Will you take a question, Honourable? The member will not take a question. Take your seat, please. Thank you. You may proceed.
We'll perhaps focus on all the other recommendations aside from that one. But the thing is that no one from the ANC speaks about the real policing issues and why there's no will to actually improve policing in Khayelitsha, even though it's their oversight responsibility to do so. It's almost as if the lives of the people living in Khayelitsha do not matter to the ANC. Because if they did, the National Police Minister would have done everything possible to ensure that policing is improved in Khayelitsha. Let me remind this House that the commissioners found, and I quote, "The evidence overwhelmingly suggests that the quality of detective work in Khayelitsha is very poor. Many cases are simply not investigated properly or at all. The proportion of cases reported to Khayelitsha that result in conviction is tiny, possibly as few as 1%. Moreover, detectives very rarely provide regular and comprehensive feedback to complainants or bereaved family members. There is a range of reasons for this. The first is that detectives are simply overburdened with work. Many detectives are carrying more than 150, some more than 200 dockets. It is not manageable. Detectives, for example, are not given SAP's email addresses nor access to the internet. Detectives also fail to take dockets to court, which results in the charges being withdrawn or the cases being struck off the roll. The Commission has established that there are dockets every week that do not get delivered to court. This is a serious inefficiency, they said, that has grave implications for complainants, witnesses, and family members. So the Department of Community Safety has taken this oversight seriously and used budget from the program previously mentioned to conduct court watching briefs, to monitor precisely these grave policing failures at court. And so the institutionalization of the court watching brief program has been strengthened to ensure that serious cases are in fact placed back on the court roll. The program has now been expanded to 42 district courts in the province and not just Khayelitsha. By visiting various courts in the province to monitor police conduct and efficiency, the primary objective is to promote professional policing. Now, the latest report, which Minister Windy has referred to, shows that of these cases monitored in court, 168 were struck off the court roll because investigations weren't complete. This includes cases of assault, aggravated robbery, attempted murder, possession of a firearm, car theft, rape, and murder. A rape case, a murder case, and in all other of these 168 cases, the matter was remanded, sometimes as many as 3 times, only to be struck off the roll because the investigation was not complete. 168 serious criminal cases in which justice was denied. Speaker, on top of that, a further 182 cases were removed from the court roll because the dockets were not in court, and a further 48 cases removed because the witnesses were simply not subpoenaed. How can we even pretend to have a criminal justice system if the very basics of police detective work is deficient? But will we hear a word about this from the ANC? Will we hear a word of how detective work by SAPS is failing us and failing victims of crime? Let's listen carefully to the ANC's contribution to the real policing issues in this province. Speaker, under Programme 3, provincial policing functions shows an increase of 43% for the 2019-20 financial year. The increase is due to the additional funds of 10 million rand made available in support of the EPWP programme. Funding for the Youth Religious Safety Programme shows an increase of almost 10.5%, up from 6.7 million to 7.4 million in the 2019-20 financial year. And safety partnerships have an earmarked allocation amounting to 4 million rand. This funding includes support for community police fora, or CPFs as we know them as. The department is again setting aside budget for community police fora to continue supporting these entities through training, support interventions, and funding for work done through the expanded partnership program. as well as matching grants. We must congratulate the Western Cape Department of Community Safety, which appears to be a leader in this regard. Our peers in the Eastern Cape Department of Safety and Liaison do not budget for CPFs at all. Instead, the budget comes from the SAP's visible policing budget. And even so, a sum of 135,000 rand was spent on CPFs in the Eastern Cape last year. And shockingly, 135,000. And shockingly, of this expenditure, 70% of the net spend was to pay for flights, meals, and accommodation of one person. Money for CPFs was used for one Mr. Mkweta to attend junkets across the country.
Order, please.
And if we again compare budgets and support between the Western Cape and our peers in the Free State, the Free State provincial government budgeted 3.8 million rand in 2017-18 for CPFs, but spent zero. And last year, they budgeted half of that amount, 1.7 million, and spent zero. They spent not a cent on CPFs in 2 years, which is in comparison with the 1.4 million rand actually spent on supporting CPFs in the Western Cape.
Order.
It's a disgrace that ANC governments have ignored and sidelined these very important legislated police oversight bodies. CPFs play an important role in holding police to account and act as a crucial link between local policing agencies and communities. Speaker, in the budget cycle under review, the department will continue encouraging CPFs and cluster boards to enter into a joint MOU based on the safety plans with municipalities. They will also be supported through training and matching grants. The department also proposes within Programme 4 by making additional funding available for neighbourhood watches, as the Minister has alluded to, so that over time neighbourhood watches can be resourced equally. During this term, this department has punched well above its weight and has been a leader in community safety across the country. The Western Cape is the only province to have provincial oversight legislation. It is the only province to have a police ombudsman. It is the only province to run court watching briefs. It is the only province with a safety advisory board. It is the only province with legislated awards for meritorious service in safety, and so the list continues. This budget is a stable and responsible budget that we are leaving for the next administration and next term, and the Democratic Alliance supports this budget. But Speaker, as I conclude my final speech in this House for this term, it would be remiss of me not to say a few thank yous. In absentia, I wish to thank the former Minister of Community Safety, Dan Plato, for his work over the years. I thank the Community Safety Head of Department, Mr. Morris, and the Community Safety Department officials for their hard work and dedication and for always being accountable to our committee, as well as for providing reports and assistance in our oversight visits. I wish to thank the Provincial Police Ombudsman's Office, the Liquor Authority, and the Cape Town Metro Police for having appeared before our committee on numerous occasions over the years and for their transparency. I equally thank Lieutenant General Jula and the Provincial SAPS management team for having appeared before our committee and for being accountable to Parliament. I wish to thank the standing committee members for their constructive engagements and productive participation. I also thank the parliamentary staff, specifically Mr. Wasim Matthews, Ms. Mary-Ann Burgess, and Mr. Ben Daza, for their professionalism and assistance over the term. I consider myself very fortunate for having had a chance to work with experts and colleagues of such high caliber. And finally, Madam Speaker, I thank Minister Windy, who in a very short space of time has made some remarkable changes and set the course for an even more impressive community safety department. We look forward to welcoming him as the new Premier of the Western Cape come May 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Order, please. I now see the Honourable Lecker. Honourable Yankee, afford your member an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. The killing of
Order, please.
Provincial Temane in Limpopo should ring alarm bells for the province. I say this because young people in the province are targeted and recruited by gangs to be hitmen. Secondly, in Nyanga, Philippi, Guguletu and Kailicha, young people are attacking each other with pangas and knives on their way to and from school. This has now also made its way to the schools around the CPT and in Claremont. The Honorable Zille Commission made a recommendation for multi-sectoral task team on youth gangs. MEC Winde, as one of the longest serving members of this House, knows about this recommendation. He must tell the parents of Kaelicha, whose children are in danger of being killed on their way to and from school, when he is going to implement this recommendation. The recommendation was clear that docs should establish and lead this task team. So the MEC must not tell us about the National Anti-Gang Strategy. The recommendation was on youth gangs. The Walking Bus Program and the Safe School Call Center are not assisting. Safety is not a police responsibility only. The MEC must tell us about exactly what he is going to do to realize the PSG3, namely increasing wellness, safety, and tackle social issues. Thus far, he has not done anything significant besides grandstanding we were subjected to a few minutes ago. The MEC and the department are doing little to tackle social ills. The DA's only solution to crime is the deployment of the army. This has a bitter taste, for we know how the army dealt with our people in the 80s. People were killed, maimed, and women were raped under the state of emergency. The ANC will not subject communities to this torture ever again. Allow me to also commend the SAPS for the work it has done through anti-gang unit and other operations like Operation Thunder. Coming to the Blue Book, the total budget for this department is not enough to ensure safety and tackling social ills. This is so because the crime gangsterism issue mainly affects the poor and not the DA constituency. To see this, you need to look at the top 10 murder stations across the country. The majority are those in the Cape Flats. Nyanga remains a murder capital, and Mitchell's Plain and Kailicha and Harare feature prominently in the list. The people of the province are looking at the provincial government for answers, not excuses as to why the above is the case. Instead of providing solution, the DA government is fueling the crisis up. Firstly, Speaker, Kailicha will not get a cent from the city's 62.5 million budget for public lighting. The Honorable Zille Commission also made it clear that lack of adequate lighting contributes to crime. This is then one of the ways in which the DA is failing to ensure safety. Last week, MEC Winde... Last week, MEC Winde challenged to make his views on the Glockmix house brokers CC of 43 million housing tender. Today is an opportunity for him to tell the public whether she agrees with the tender or not. Gang killings are a serious challenge in the province. We cannot have a silent MEC when his government is aiding gang matters in the province. The Department of Health in its APP explained that there's been a huge increase in gunshot injuries during interpersonal violence. It is stated that while the workload norm of autopsies or specialists is 350, provincial staff are doing between 800 to 950 per specialist per year. This is the legacy of the DA through its failures to ensure safety in the province. I always maintain that he is misplaced in this department. The DA thought it was giving its poster boy an opportunity to shine. Little did they know that they were exposing him and his understanding of safety. To the DA, safety is a ticket for cheap political scoring. MEC Winde and the DA don't care about the lives of the poor. A few minutes ago, we heard in this house that the SAPS does not do adequate investigation of dockets. As a result, the cases are withdrawn and the criminals are walking free. I want to state again that MEC Winde is misplaced. Cases are provisionally withdrawn, and as and when SAPS gets its technical evidence from some of the Department of Health, they get it at the time it has been withdrawn provisionally. Gangsters, crime people are not withdrawn. They will come back as we receive the documents, the reports from the Office of the MEC, Health. The 10.80 decrease in the budget for Program 2, Civilian Oversight, shows how this government is failing the poor. MEC Winde always tells us that he has an oversight responsibility and that his job is not policing. Program 2 is the program that you do oversight. Under this program, you have the monitoring and evaluation, which monitors police conduct. The budget for this sub-program has been decreased. Under this program, you also have safety promotions, which deals with the implementation of safety program with an emphasis of youth, women, and children. Western Cape recorded the highest number of murders, women and children. MEC Winde's response to this is to decrease the budget for safety promotion over by 14%. Then the speaker underway this program, you have community relations, community police relations, which administers and manages the EPP, a payment model for CPFs based on performance. The over 24% increase is welcomed. However, the challenge remains the police, between the relationship of the police and the department. The genesis of this breakdown in relationship was the introduction of this EPP. The introduction of the EPP is an attempt by this department to capture the CPFs and to force them to spy on SAPS. CPFs that do not cooperate will be purged by not being given funding. To receive more funding, a CPF will have to provide details, briefs to the department on the failures of SAPS. The department knows the consequences of this as they listed them in the APP under risk management on page 65. It is likely to result in a non or limited functioning of CPFs. As it is happening as we speak. The priority of this department is the partnership it is funding under sub-program 3.1, which has been given an over 55% budget in the budget. The sub-program also has Chrysalis Academy, as well as the safety and religion partnership programs. I do not need to repeat my views on this program. Suffice to say, the issue of gangsterism will never end for as long as millions are thrown into ineffective programs. Let us invest in community partnership that will keep our streets safe and ensure safety of our schools. The EMS personnel are attacked on a daily basis in the province. What is the department doing about that? Absolutely nothing, because money is used to pay for children's holidays. In the 6th administration, we will have to conduct a proper evaluation of these programs. We will have to determine their impact. The court-washing briefs should also be added here. We continue to throw money, yet we do not know its impact. Program 4 of this department takes a large chunk of the budget. The neighborhood watches are under this program. The MEC continues to accredit, strengthen neighborhood watch structures while continuing to purge the CPFs through EPP. In fact, Speaker, we must say that there is no truth to what the Democratic Alliance is driving, because In the Western Cape, the police ratio is better than that of the national average in terms of the provincial capacity and national, which is 1 to 324. If the support personnel in police officials is included, it will be a better average. In fact, we must also
Honourable
say
Lecker,
it here.
kindly take your seat. There's a member on the floor. Honourable Danke.
Checking if the member can just take a question.
Honourable Lecker, will you take a question?
I will, Speaker.
Yes, the member will take a question. Order, please. Allow the member to pose his question. You may proceed, Honourable Member.
Honourable Speaker, with your permission, Honourable Member Lecker, did I hear you correct when you said the Kailicha Zille Commission, amongst the findings it found was that part of the contributing factor to crime in Kailicha was the absence of street
Honourable
lights?
Danke.
And did I get you correct? This is the question. That's a question.
Honourable Danke,
Please protect me.
please direct your question to the chair
Be direct.
and not make a statement but pose a question. Thank you.
Here is the question. I am asking.
Member Joseph, as soon as Honourable Dank is finished, I will take your point of order. Yes.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker,
Just
for that
ask your
protection.
question, yes.
Thank you for that. I am asking Honourable.
Yes, sorry.
What is the point of order? Ek weet dat bait. I'm asking Honourable Pat Lecker, did I get her correct? This is the question.
I'm listening.
Did I get her correct when she says
Order.
in the Kailicha Zille commissions, part of the findings was that the absence of street lights is a contributing factor to crime.
So is that your
And
question?
that now she says, in the 62 million, which is just been allocated now, nothing has been allocated to culture for street lighting, which comes out of that. Did I get you correct, Honourable Pat Lecker?
Okay, sorry, Chief Wali. Sorry, Honourable Lecker, before you answer, no, I have afforded Member Joseph the opportunity.
Oh, thank
Order,
you,
please.
Thank you, Speaker. Before the member answer, there is no such thing as Kailicha Zille Commission. It's wrong. It's a wrong name.
Thank you.
There's no such commission as Kailicha Zille Commission. There's no such commission.
That is noted. Honourable Yankee, on a point of clarity, the point's been made. There is no such thing as a Kailicha. So, Member Lecker, sorry, Minister Madikizela.
Can I get clarity?
Yes, but we're still busy with points of order. Thank
Can
you.
I get clarity, Madam Speaker? Can an ordinary member ask a question to an ordinary member?
Yes.
Under which rule? Under which rule? No, under which rule? Now, under which rule?
Okay, Minister Madikizela, you put me on the spot now. I will have to find out which rule, and if it can indeed, I will have to take guidance from the table staff and revert. Thank you. Those are the points of order. Honourable Lecker, you may proceed. I think the question posed was a simple yes or no. Thank you.
Check how much time do I have? Considering this thing.
You actually have 15 seconds when we stop the clock.
Okay. Indeed, Speaker, the 62.5 million budget does not cater for lighting. Now, let me come to the issue of the 5 million that MEC Windy brags about. I think it's important that we note that the 5 million reserved for reservists is nothing but a ploy and nothing but an electioneering strategy for the Democratic Alliance. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Lecker. Your time has expired. Thank you. Can we get some order in the House, please? Both Both sides of the House, please.
The worst in our country, the worst performing MEC weapon in the premium country. You don't even have a premium. We don't do those things. We don't do those fun things. Some of us now don't do this.
Can we, honourable members, may we proceed after all your deliberations? Minister Windy, you are recognised. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Speaker. First of all, to the Honourable Wenger for her role as Chair, but also in her contribution in the debate. Also, again, highlighting the K9 unit.
Minister, will you kindly take your seat, please? Honourable Lekkers on the floor. You are standing.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to check if the MEC can take a question.
Okay, if you take your seat, I'll ask the MEC. Minister, will you take a question? The minister will take a question.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to get an understanding from MEC Windy whether he has any intention of putting the 5 million every year for the recruitment and the payment of the reservists.
Thank you, Member Lekker. Minister Windy, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. I'll see if I get to that when I do my reply. But the Honourable Wenger, thank you very much. The K9 unit obviously is a start, because while we understand that we have an oversight role, we can't just be oversight when we have the kind of crime, the kind of gangsterism, the kind of effect that we have on society in this province. We've got to go further, we've got to do more, and that's why beyond our mandate, we're starting to put these units, for example, the K9 unit, in place. You also spoke about the Regan Commission, which obviously kind of gets mixed up on the other side of the House often, and 3 years and still no MOU. And it really shows you that whether it's that commission of inquiry, whether it's a judicial process where a judge comes out after the Social Justice Coalition Court's ruling, where a judge takes a ruling, you can actually see that Minister Becky Cele, the ANC and the national government do not take the safety of our people seriously whatsoever, because they take so long to even take recognition of something like a commission like that, and continue nothing happening. You mentioned the watching briefs, and I think I'm going to talk a bit more about the watching briefs when I answer the Honourable Lekker. So I'll leave it over till then. But you also then spoke about 2 other provinces where you mentioned how other provinces are specifically looking at the support of CPFs. And we heard now the Honourable Lekker and the way that she was talking about CPFs. And it's interesting because the Honourable Lekker, obviously, I'm not sure how long she has been a member of this committee, although we are reaching the end of a term. One would presume it's been for 5 years, but she obviously doesn't understand the legislation or the regulation and what role a CPF actually has to play, and how it's supposed to be non-political, and the role that it's supposed to play in oversight itself and support for SAPs. And she obviously, by the way that she was speaking, she has no clue whatsoever. And in this province, if you have a look at the process this department has been following around CPFs, and when you attend the board, I'm not sure if she's ever attended a board meeting of the CPF, but when you attend that board, you speak to their chairperson, who is very political. But interesting, when I attended the last board meeting, when I attended that meeting, and one wonders that this honourable member, whether she actually didn't seem to make much use of her time, because she seems to be wanting to make use of the time now while I'm speaking. But it's obvious that the politicization of that body is a big concern for the ANC. Because in actual fact, when we do it properly, when we do it according to the rules and the law, then quite frankly, that should not be politicized at all. And we have worked very hard to make sure that it is not. And it is very interesting to watch that space, how it is evolving over time. And I really believe if we continue to work the way that the department is working with them, that we are going to develop a body that is going to be beneficial to making sure that we fight crime in this province. I want to say that the honourable member, and it was interesting how she got a question from her own backbench, but it was a bit of déjà vu when I saw that question. When I saw that question, I actually thought of Ozinski asking a question of Rasool, because I saw like one faction, the outgoing faction, asking a question of the incoming faction. The outgoing faction, who I looked on the list, I've got their list here, I didn't find his name once on this list for this province, number 64, but I saw that the honourable member who spoke is number 1 on the provincial list. One would imagine that she was the premier candidate. But she brought up our school safety program. And of course, it's really interesting to have a look at that school safety program and how it interacts with those schools, how it monitors how many students actually belong to which gangs. It's really interesting when you read the documentation, when you see the kind of work that is happening, and you see the kind of fight that we've got at the moment in trying to make our schools safer. And really, I commend this program and thank the partnership between the department and the Department of Education. And they really are working very hard to make our schools a safe space. I know that the Minister of Education and I visited a school the other day, and it's amazing to see when you visit classrooms and the police are actually doing their searches, taking arms, weapons, drugs, etc. But a really funny note was a young girl had a knife on her when we were there. A young girl had a knife on her when we were at a school the other day, and the knife got confiscated by the police. And they get told, before we search your bags, have you got anything to hand in? And she handed in this knife. And here's this young girl handing in a knife. So the Honourable Minister of Education went up to her and said to her, "What have you got a knife for?" She said, "It was to cut my mango." It was to cut her mango, but she had to hand it in. Anyway, the poor girl. But getting to the army, you know, and you've heard a lot of...
Say, Minister, there's a private conversation between Honourable Magaka and Minister Madikizela that's actually drowning. Oh, he's a good doctor. All right, okay. So, oh, all right, thank you. It's a good thing. Honourable Magaka, it's a good thing. It took them 5 years to like you. You should feel flattered. You may proceed, Minister Wendy.
This outgoing team is getting bigger and bigger, Speaker. But anyway, there has been a lot of rhetoric in the speech around army. Even the Honourable Lecker had to bring up the army again. And it's really interesting that, you know, in this country, it wasn't so long ago that the Mfuleni municipality actually used the army when they were doing their water infrastructure. And you know that in this very province, and this really shows me that these members have not got a clue of what's going on in the real difficult spaces where gang violence is terrorizing families every single day. They are obviously out of touch with the community. They obviously have not walked the streets. Because when you walk the streets, it's the people that say to you, "We are desperate, we want the army." And I want to ask them now, can any of them say when last was the army deployed in the Western Cape? When last was the army deployed in the Western Cape? It was deployed in 2011. It was deployed in 2011 in Lavender Hill to calm down the gang violence. And the people remember that. The people remember that.
Members, you are howling. Sorry. No. Members across the board, you cannot engage in this way. It's undignified, and it really doesn't bode well. Honourable Lecker, you have had a speaking opportunity of 10 minutes. Will you? If we could all just compose ourselves and calm down, and then you may proceed, Minister Windy.
Thank you very much,
And please
Speaker.
talk to me, Minister
I will.
Windy. You see, there you go again.
You see, I'm trying to...
Honourable Makaleni. Yeah. He is speaking to me, Honourable Makaleni.
Speaker, I'm going to speak quite calmly. I'm going to speak quite calmly, but unfortunately, if I do get drowned out from that side of the House, I will have to raise my voice to be heard. But the honourable member raises the issue of the army, and when I come in and address the issue of the army, then she freaks out and starts screaming and shouting, so it causes me to raise my voice. But she raised the issue of the army, and I'm now telling her, when the army came in last into Lavender Hill, and you speak to people in Lavender Hill, they say to me, please, we are desperate because the police are not able to do their job, so please bring some extra support because we are desperate, waking up in the morning to gunfire, going to bed at night with gunfire. It is unacceptable, it is unsafe, our people are dying like flies, and the ANC don't care a damn. Speaker, then moving to the next point, the honourable member raised... The honourable member raised...
Honourable Makaleni, I have a duty to protect the minister. You cannot do that. No, but Honourable Makaleni, please. Interjections are allowed, but the rate at which you've been going this last 7 minutes. Thank you. Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Then the honourable member... Then the honourable member raises the next issue. And what she raises is public lighting. Now, we've dealt with this in the House before. Because...
Sorry, Minister, kindly take your seat, please. Honourable Chacha.
Speaker, I see a page with a logo of an organization. Is that allowed?
Oh, I wouldn't know what's on the page, but...
Yes.
Okay, sorry, Minister, I don't know what is on your page, but if it is offensive, then I would recommend that you not use the page as a shield.
It's quite offensive, Speaker.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm really sorry then. Oh. Okay. Maybe take a blank page, please,
Speaker,
Minister
it's the
Windy.
Bosasa AGM attendance list.
Order, please. Members, time is going on. There are still 2 votes to be deliberated. It's a serious matter. Can we get on with the business of the day? Please compose yourselves. Minister Windy.
Speaker, there are actually 3 more issues I want to speak about. The first one is that the Honourable Lecker raises the issue around public lighting, and I agree with her. But you know, she RSVP'd to come to the Safer Conference. She didn't pitch. If she'd come to that conference, she would have seen the presentation on street lighting and how we really have got to become much more innovative. We've got to become much smarter with how we put street lighting specifically in poor and informal areas. And we are busy working on that at the moment. It was an amazing presentation, and if she just pitched when she said she was pitched, she would have seen it. But she can still go onto the website. She can still download the presentation. It is a really good presentation, Speaker. And then the last thing, she doesn't walk the streets because I've never seen her once. Speaker, the next thing is that she spoke about the watching briefs. And quite frankly...
Honourable Lecker, Chief of Wali.
Banshee from the back there.
Honourable Lecker, I cannot determine what and how the minister is going to respond. You had an opportunity to speak. You were afforded the space, the silence, the time to speak. Please afford the minister an opportunity to respond. Yes,
Can I address you, Speaker? In his comment, he says, I don't walk the streets. And I want to clarify him through you, Speaker, that
but you
I
can't.
walk the streets and he only goes to Table View.
Honourable Lecker, that is
He
not...
goes to Table View. And
Honourable Lecker, that is not a point of order. That is a debating point. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Honourable Lecker, compose yourself, please. Minister Windy. If Honourable Magaka, if you could just get your bench to calm down, then we might get some serious. You are indeed calm today, Honourable Magaka. Minister Windy, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Speaker. The honourable member mustn't ask questions in a debate and then not expect to get an answer. So the last point that she raised was around the court watching briefs. The court...
Sorry.
To leave.
Thank you. Honourable Lecker, there is the issue of the dignity and decorum of the House. Every statement the minister makes, you respond with an interjection, which you are allowed to in terms of your freedom within the House. But it's becoming disruptive to the point that I have to ask the minister to sit down or I need to ask for order. Can we just afford the minister the opportunity to finish his responses to the statements that were made? Please, you may proceed, Minister.
Thank you very much. The last point that I want to raise that the Honourable Lecker spoke about is the court watching briefs. And the court watching briefs, when the Minister, Becky Clele, said, thank you very much, this is a great program, he acknowledged that there's this massive failure on investigation and getting criminals that are arrested through a process to get to a conviction and consequences for a crime. And by accepting that this court watching brief is the mechanism that's really showcasing the weak points or the weakest link in our system, that showed that there was at least commitment that the minister even sees there's failure in this space and saying we actually need to adopt that. And I know that people were excited when I mentioned it earlier on in the speech, but it really is. It is a huge step forward in policing in our province. It's a huge step forward in dealing with crime in our province. And that last point, I noticed that the Honourable Lecker wasn't very, there was not much, she wasn't very lekker about that. Her commendation was not too good, but the minister's acceptance is what we really thank him for. If that's the only thing we get right now in the last couple of months, it means a huge amount because the kind of 3% conviction rate in gangs is just unacceptable because crime is out of control. And this is a process brought about by this department and dedication from men and women who go out there to make sure that we hold those that are the perpetrators of massive, disgusting crime in our system to account, and we get them through a process. So it is really an amazing piece of work, and I really thank everybody involved in that. And then lastly, Speaker, what I want to say is I want to give a message because this debate and generally in this House, what we speak about in this House is the mismanagement out of Pretoria, the failure of the ANC, and we really attack the South African police services because they are not delivering a safer society. But my last message is there are still so many really good men and women in the South African police services, and I want to thank them despite the difficulties, despite the space in which they operate, despite the hectic space in going to work, they don't even know if they're coming home. I want to thank them, those people who day and night work damn hard to help us towards a safer society. And then, Speaker, this is the last time that I'm going to be speaking in this House in this portfolio. It's the last time in this portfolio. Just hang on a second. It's the last time in this portfolio. I want to thank everybody, the opposition, those small parties that have been missing for the last while, and specifically my colleagues here in the Democratic Alliance in these benches. Thank you for the last 5 years, for the term. The government officials, all those support agencies, thank you very much. It's been a great 5 years, and I'm really looking forward to the next 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Wendy. That, honourable members, concludes the debate on this vote. The bells will be rung. The House is suspended for 3 minutes for the administration to vacate and come back into the chamber. Thank you.